Hello, this is Dr. Pujim Malewezi, public health specialist, medical doctor, and Harvard Lead Fellow for 2021-2022. I've been doing this series of videos sharing about this opportunity for the next incoming cohort for the Lead Fellowship. Now, if you've been watching these and thinking, okay, I've got a grasp on some of these, but I still need some tips and guidelines, this is just some tips in terms of preparing your application. Hopefully you are on track already, have started some of the aspects, but this is just a few tips for people who are applying. So as I've mentioned, this is a fellowship for women in global health who are leaders, have a middle level, so 15 years into their career or so, really looking to develop and develop their leadership capacity as well as develop more in terms of other areas of their career. So this fellowship is a one-year fellowship that will provide coaching, workshops on leadership aspects, as well as courses in person, hopefully, at Harvard from May to June, from January to May 2023. And so this is just a few tips in terms of how to engage the application. Some of the videos, if you watch some of the early videos, I shared a little bit more about the eligibility criteria, what to look for and what you need to do. But this particular video is just taking you quickly into what you need to prepare, or how you should prepare for your application, at least from my experience of doing this last year. So as I said, the application is actually not that difficult. It is pretty straightforward. You click on the apply button. There's just one submission, so it's an online application. There's quite a number of series of essays that you need to do, plus also other things that you need to submit. So again, just make sure that the idea for your application process is give yourself, hopefully you're watching this with good enough time, but give yourself enough time to work through all the essays, make sure they're refining them, you have somebody who's reviewing them for you, and all those other aspects. But let's get into it. The key thing for this application, as I said, is once you've made sure that you're eligible, and the eligibility is not that difficult actually. You can be, just as long as you've worked for 15 years or so, as long as you're a woman in global health and you have leadership capacity, which I hope all of us do at some level, then you're eligible. So now it's about making sure that you are shining and showing your capacity in your application. A lot of us, and I know that a lot of people just take for granted some of this thing, but it is it's sort of a carefully packaged ideal. There's a lot of things to go through, so make sure all of those speak to each other and show and highlight and showcase you and your leadership capacity and what you're able to do. So one is your CV. Again, this is, if you have had a standard CV, make sure that it's whatever you're doing. Even, again, it's not just about the title, it's about what you're doing. So in all of your CV, just review your CV, make sure that it is highlighting your leadership capacity. But before that, actually, let me say the first thing you need to do is get that institutional letter of approval, because it has to be your institution approving. So the first key things that you need to prioritize if you're starting for your application is one, once you've decided you're going to apply, is to start to think about your institution. Who's the institution you work for, and sort of making sure that they give you approval. Now, I'll share a bit of detail about myself. I was actually not formally working in an organization, but I was working with Women in Global Health and Women Doctors Association. So my actual my institution is Women in Global Health that has supported me. So it's important to realize as well that you might not have a formal job and employment, but at least you have an affiliated institution that can support you, and that would be important for you to do that. So again, don't pull yourself out of the race just because of something. Like, make sure that you're looking at opportunities and how you can frame it that makes the most sense for what you do. And then it's important that that institution gives you that, so you start to work through getting that approval from your institution, and there might be some processes in your organization that you need to get that. Also, because you need to get a leave of absence, you need to be away for a couple of time, 4 months, 5 months or so. So that's important. Get that institutional letter going. Get your references in order, because again, there's 2 references that will write directly to the fellowship. So make sure that they're who those are. Select people who can, one, speak to your leadership capacity, but also high enough level, and from different institutions, right? So it can be within your institution and outside, but it has to be people who can really, people who can showcase you and also will be able to be high enough. So what I've been advising people is get as high as you can go in your career ladder. If it's the CEO of your organization, if it's the Ministry of Health, or some other delegate that can really speak to, that has engaged with you and understands and can really talk about you and your capacity for leadership and what you bring to the table, that will be important. Those are the key first things to work on, because it's really important, again, because those are things that you're working on with other people. If you're great with writing essays, you could probably power through an essay within like 2-3 days, but I wouldn't advise that. But at least for the people, the other things that you need from other people, these are priorities. So start to work on those really quickly, because those can delay you and obviously miss your deadline. The second part of the process is to make sure that you are now looking at the essays. There's 7 to go through. Most of them are worded from 500 words to 1,000, so it's not too long, it's not too much, but they're all in different layers, right? So there's one about your career intent, sort of career development. There's your letter of intent, there's your project, there's your what is the impact on your country, there's your mentorship plan. All of these are different elements talking about what you're going to do, so you need to plan your time. I actually had a little calendar. I'd set myself and I worked through this over a period of time, 3-4 weeks. So again, if you're watching this video a bit late, just make sure that you power through, make sure you have your calendar set, which essay you're doing, and make sure that you're working towards that target, because there is a number of them and they have to all sort of speak to each other but not repeat the same thing over and over again. So they need to add detail to each one of those elements. So I would advise you that once you're working through these 5 different essays, make sure that you are able to like plan them and think through carefully, put some bullet points initially and then write it all down. You can work through each essay at a time. I did that process as well, and ideally identify somebody that can help reviewing and editing, and also speaking more, especially if it's somebody that knows you well, because they might also be able to add some detail that you might have missed in terms of like, well, maybe you're better at this, how about you promote that? So it's important for you to have somebody, identify somebody who will also be doing some reviews for you. I was fortunate enough to have one of the Harvard Lead Fellows of the previous cohort reviewing my work as well, and one of my mentors as well was reviewing my inputs. So make sure you're engaging and having people who can support you to do that, because it does help to just refine and make sure that you're producing the best quality work that you can. Give yourself time. Aim for, the deadline is the 25th, but ideally aim for submission by 23, 24, just because, again, internet and other things might happen. So just aim for finalizing early so that you can review, and also if you're sharing with other people, that they can review and send you their edits in good time. And then the other thing, again, is identifying a mentor within your organization. That is something that you can do together with the institutional approval, so that you can identify those things. Again, it's not too difficult, to be honest. It's just about planning. So if you can plan, organize yourself, get through and power through, it's possible. I did this last year and it was possible. Just powering through, making sure, and having somebody reviewing the documents was helpful. I hope this is helpful for those who are planning to apply. If you've got any questions, again, most of us as Lead Fellows are available to answer any questions you may have, and all the best, and wishing you all the best of luck as you apply. Looking forward to you joining us. Thank you.